So my name is Esiah Rosario. A little bit of my background is I grew up in this area, grew up in Bethlehem. I grew up in a Christian household for a long time, just went to church, went through the WANA programs, went through the youth group programs, went through all that, but never really went with the intention of wanting to go as an individual, just kind of went because it was something that my family kind of told us we had to do kind of thing, like every Wednesday, every Sunday. So when I got to high school, I wouldn't say I right away fell away from going to youth group, but I was homeschooled, so going into high school was kind of like a culture shock, you would say, of just like, it was kind of the point where I just started to find out more so of what other kids were doing in high school, and that was completely different shift of an atmosphere from what I've grew up in, of just in the church and just seeing what church kids were. Slowly but surely, I started stepping into more so of what the world was doing versus what I knew I was supposed to be doing, going through all those years of church, all those years of youth group, Awanas, all that. So just kind of from that point on, started stepping into finding my identity in girls, finding my identity in drugs. It wasn't really until senior year that I really came to understand like who the Lord was. So I remember having a conversation with my parents. They had found out I was smoking, and they found out like I was doing all these things with these girls, and like just started asking me like, Esiah, like what is it that has brought you to this point that makes you feel like you have to find your identity in this? I didn't have a direct answer to give to them. I was just like, well, everyone else is doing it and it makes me feel good. But my dad had told me, he said, Esiah, the Lord has called you, and if you continue down this path of just walking in your own direction and not following what the Lord has for you, you can't be mad at him because you're deciding to walk away from him. That kind of stuck with me, and I kept doing those things, but so I'm heading to school. I went and picked up my neighbor, and he asked me if I wanted to smoke, and I was like, yeah, of course, like this is just an everyday thing. Before I go to school, I'd smoke and then go to school. Then I remember I was heading back to my house because I had this card at my house that I had forgotten. That conversation that I just told you I had with my parents came back to me, and I'm like, oh, I can't go back to my house because my dad had told me if I'm caught back in my house high or whatever, it wasn't gonna be good. So I'm going towards this hill, I'm approaching it. The sun like gets really bright and just kind of comes in and just like starts consuming my car. I kid you not, like I'm third person, like they say in the movies, like, and I'm watching myself drive down this hill. And I had told my parents I got rid of all this stuff. I wasn't gonna smoke anymore. I wasn't gonna do all those things. And I see myself as I'm driving down this hill start grabbing all those things that I had in the car that I told them I got rid of. I see myself open the window and throw it out the window. As soon as I get over the bridge, boom, I'm back into like my body. I'm just normal. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, what do you do after that? Like, God has to be real. Like, God, like, there's no way he can't be real. So for that moment, I was completely sober, and I was trying to start walking with the Lord, but I really wasn't. I was just kind of going through the motions, going to church on Sunday, and that was it. Now I catch myself back into temptation of like, being angry at God of like, you revealed yourself to me, you showed me like who you were, and nothing seems to be changing. Like I'm still filled with all this confusion. I'm still filled with anxiety. I'm still filled with just shame and just like, I don't know why I still feel like this. So in college, everyone's like, let's party, let's have a good time. So now I start seeing what this is like and stepping into the party life, stepping into the selling drugs, even more drugs than I was doing before. And just, I dropped out of college, and I'm like, what is my life? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm like, it really like went from me thinking I was on the right path, and I'm just in this thought process of like, what is going on? Like, what is life truly about? With all the things that I fell into this past year of the drugs I was consuming consuming LSD, I was consuming pills, I was consuming shrooms, drinking, like whatever I could basically get my hands on. When I turned away from the Lord, from when he revealed himself to me, I started hearing demonic voices and seeing demonic things. And I was hearing all these voices, and they would like tell me all these negative things of nobody likes you, but I wouldn't tell anyone this. Like, I didn't tell anyone because I thought people would just think I was crazy. Fast forwarding a little bit, this is to the night of breakthrough that like the Lord finally was like, enough is enough. Like, you need to come home. So I'm going to this party with 3 of my friends, and I just felt just in me, I was like, I don't think it's for me to drink and to party all that today. Like, I'm just gonna go in there, I'm gonna try and just have fun and just be who I am and just show people who I truly am. Like, and I'm just gonna go off that. Like I said, like I was the one who was invested in all this partying, and I was like the party animal, the one that always brought life to the party, fun, which was, now I know, not life but death. My one friend looks at me and he's like, bro, come on. And I'm like, I don't know what it was inside of me, but I like felt like I was letting him down, and like he was like gonna be mad or sad or something that if I didn't drink. So I gave into the temptation and I drank. So we go into the party and everything's good. I go in, we're all just playing like beer pong, and then everyone looks at me and they're like, so what should we do now? Like after the game was done, and I was like, well, there's a pool, like let's go in the pool. And so then I'm like, my trunks are in the car, so I'm gonna go get them. So as I'm going out to the car, I start seeing these shadows like running around, and I'm like, what is going on? So then I literally just remember, like I opened the trunk, and as soon as my feet like touch back on the grass, I drop to my knees and I start crying because I seen these shadows, and I start like repenting God and just praying to him, because literally in the past, like I just remember I would turn to God whenever I was afraid, even though I was denying him and pushing him away. And I'm like, God, I'm so sorry. Like, will you please forgive me? Like, I don't know why I keep turning away from you. I don't know why I keep turning to these things that aren't going to give me satisfaction. I don't know why I keep turning to these things that just keep leading me down the wrong path. And I just start bawling, like I'm screaming, like literally, like, and I'm not the type of person that cries, like, because I just held my emotions for so long. But I just was bawling, and I'm like screaming, like I felt like literally like someone was like stabbing me, like screaming like that loud. And my friends come running and they're like, what's wrong? Like, what are you doing? Why are you screaming so loud? Like, they're gonna call the cops. I'm like, bro, like, leave me alone. Like, trust me, I don't care like what goes on tonight. Like, I don't care what happens. Like, I just have to get myself right with God. Like, you don't understand. And they're like, bro, like, they're gonna call the cops. And I'm like, no, listen, I don't care if I go to jail. I don't care what happens tonight. Like, the most important thing of tonight is that I get myself right with God. And so my one friend, he gets on top of me and like puts me in a headlock to try and like choke me out to put me to sleep. And like I just hear a small still voice, and it's like, just let it happen. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what do you mean just let it happen? Like, I'm getting choked out right now. He hits me like across my head because we were all under the influence, and for the rest of the night I could not tell you what happened. All I remember is I wake up, I'm in the car, and we're traveling back home, and they're like, bro, like you were bugging, like you were screaming, like you were talking about God, you were talking about demons, like you were talking about everything. And I'm like, you know what, like you guys are supposed to be my friends, like this, that, and the third. And then I'm like, let me out the car. So I just get out the car and they zoom off, boom, they're gone. I'm in the middle of the night, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I have my phone, I have no shoes on, I have shorts and a shirt sleeve shirt on. I'm bawling my eyes out. My friends just left me, my best friend just left me, and I just hear a voice say, call your dad. And I'm like, no way, I'm not calling him. I end up calling my dad, and he ends up getting my address of where I am, my location, picks me up. Don't remember him picking me up. Don't remember him taking me home. The next day I wake up, and literally all of the things I was telling you about that I struggle with in my life, I struggled with depression, I struggled with anxiety, I struggled with feeling shame, I struggled with feeling like I wasn't enough, I struggled with feeling like I wasn't worth anything, like my life wasn't worth anything. In the blink of an eye of going to sleep and waking up, gone. I feel like literally, like it might sound crazy, but I felt lighter. Like I was like, the heaviness is gone. And I wake up filled with joy, and I'm like, I never felt like this. Like I feel like I'm a little kid again. Like I literally feel like I'm 10 years old again. And I go upstairs, and I already know, I'm like, I'm gonna have to have a discussion with my parents, but how do I even tell them that everything I've been feeling for the past 5 years, everything that I've been dealing with, that I don't know how to tell anyone, that I've been struggling, that I had in my closet for so long, how do I tell them this? And Lord, I just hear this small still voice again, and it's just like, just be yourself, be who you were meant to be. And I was like, okay. So I go upstairs and I just start telling my dad the whole story, unraveling the whole story. And from that point on, from June 6, 2020, this is not even almost a year ago that I've been walking with the Lord, that I've just been taking it day by day, step by step, one step at a time. And it's been, I kid you not, the craziest, most beautiful story, not even a year of my life. If anyone is dealing with this, like if anyone has something in your closet, if anyone feels like there's something so heavy that you can't just let go, I'm telling you, like, just release your hands. Get down on your knees. Literally get down on your knees. Regardless if you look a fool or not, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, the freedom that will come from it is so amazing. Like, God wants to take that. He doesn't look at his children. He doesn't say, oh, I want them to carry that burden. No, he says, cast your cares on me because I care for you. He cares about you, each and every one of you, because he calls you a son and daughter. He calls you worth. He calls you beautiful and beloved. He knows you can't bear it alone. That's why he paid the price on the cross, so that he can live in us, so that he can fight the battles with us, so we don't have to stand alone. But yeah, that's my testimony. If anyone has any questions, feel free just to talk to me, ask questions.